Much of what we've discussed in postmodernism has been about how these postmodernist designers are protesting international style and resisting the corporate culture of graphic design. In this lecture, we're going to talk explicitly about the type of protest imagery that they also produce. So part of this does come out of an anti-capitalist, anti-consumerist approach. This is a manifesto written in 1964 by Ken Garland, who is British. And he writes, "We, the undersigned, are graphic designers, photographers, and students who have been brought up in a world in which the techniques and apparatus of advertising have persistently been presented to us as the most lucrative, effective, and desirable means of using our talents. In common with an increasing number of the general public, we have reached a saturation point at which the high-pitched scream of consumer selling is no more than sheer noise. We think there are other things more worth using our skill and experience on." So what Garland is saying in 1964 is that these graphic designers shouldn't be using their skills to get you to buy stuff, but rather to change the world. In the 1960s, this is a period in which people are deeply concerned with many different world issues, including the war in Vietnam, the civil rights movement, the women's rights movement. There's many things happening in the 1960s that graphic designers are deeply concerned about. And so we're looking at those issues in this lecture. The first example I have here is a poster by a British designer called Peter G. He lived in New York and was involved in the pop art movement. But after Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in 1968, he made this poster as a way to commemorate him. Now, when you look at this, it really does incorporate so many things from international style. It's essentially typo photo, right? Because we have this photograph of Dr. King in his cell at the Birmingham jail, but G has set it up as a grid, and then he has text from one of Dr. King's speeches at the bottom left, flush left. So you have these very international style trends. However, instead of using those trends to sell bouillon cubes, he's using it to raise awareness of Dr. King's legacy and to make viewers think about what they should do in order to continue that legacy. Only a month after Dr. King was assassinated, in Paris, there's a huge student protest led by university students and also industrial workers. So angered by the conservative politics of Charles de Gaulle and dissatisfied with French society in general, university students and industrial workers take to the streets, and it completely disrupts French life for the month of May in 1968. By June of that year, however, the Conservative Party of de Gaulle won new elections. In terms of graphic design, during this period, there is a workshop called the People's Workshop, the Atelier Populaire. This is a group of art students from the prestigious École des Beaux-Arts. They are among the best art students in the country, and they were enormously productive during this period. They made large runs of protest posters, over 1 million in 6 weeks. This is an example of one of them, La lutte continue, the struggle continues. And you see here this raised fist. It is also, it's like the fist is on top of an industrial smokestack. And so it's combining these different images in a way that kind of should remind you of international style. So it's similar to what we saw in the Saul Bass poster from 1962 advertising the Hollywood film Exodus. That raised fist just immediately connotates protest. However, the illustrated style looks a lot like pushpin. And so that whimsy, like that kind of ironic style, is part of what makes this poster edgy and fit into the protest movement. Feminism in graphic design is pretty important during this time. So on the slide, you can see details about several different feminist workshops that are established in the early 1970s. The major goals of these groups are twofold. On one hand, they want to explore issues of gender and sexuality, But on the other hand, they're also really interested in how to promote women within the field of graphic design. They want women to win high-profile commissions, and they want women to produce art outside of patriarchal discourses. A woman who is really successful at that is Barbara Kruger. This poster, Your Body is a Battleground, is a way of taking this patriarchal style, this women's magazine that are designed to make you want to buy beauty products and look differently. She takes all of those strategies and uses it to promote an entirely different message. So Kruger worked at women's magazines, and she was very well versed in the type of design that they would want. And so she takes elements of that and then subverts it. So the photograph in the background is of a white woman who was wearing makeup and her hair is well coiffed, but she's staring right at the viewer kind of defiantly. And then half of her face is a negative image of the photograph. So it really kind of undermines the presentation on the left. Then Kruger takes the text and runs it right down the center so that your eyes kind of beat against her face, emphasizing this idea that her body is a battleground. And that phrase is meant to link to the feminist call to arms, the personal is political. This is the idea that women's private lives are part of a political discourse because of the way that the government tries to regulate reproductive health, and among other things. The last thing I want to look at is this poster about the AIDS movement. It's called Silence Equals Death from 1987. And at the center is a pink triangle. A pink triangle was the symbol that the Nazi regime forced gay people to wear on their arms to identify them, while Germany and most of Europe was under Nazi control. What's interesting about this is it takes that symbol that was meant to shame and now uses it to galvanize people. So the questions raised at the very bottom of this: why is Reagan silent about AIDS? What is really going on at the Center for Disease Control, the Federal Drug Administration, and the Vatican? Gays and lesbians are not expendable. Use your power, vote, boycott, defend yourselves, turn anger, fear, and grief into action. So this poster was very, very effective in raising awareness of the AIDS crisis and the fact that the government didn't seem to care that there was an epidemic of people dying from AIDS across the United States. And so this was meant to get more research and to have the government start helping people so that this entire community wouldn't be decimated. You can see that on some level, this is like El Lissitzky, right? It's using these geometric forms. But instead of having that dynamic energy, placing the triangle right at the center, it's like it's focused and telling you to head forward and to stay focused on the path in which to protest the treatment of gays in the United States.